Good morning. My name is Andrea, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Life Cycle Nutrition conference call. All lines have been placed on listen-only mode. Later, we will conduct an interactive question-and-answer session. If you would like to ask a question during that time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. You will hear a tone acknowledging your request and a prompt to record your name. If you would like to withdraw your question, please press star, then the number 2. Thank you. Ms. Dearborn, you may begin.
Thank you very much. Everyone, welcome to today's presentation for Life Cycle Nutrition and Evidence-Based Approach, second edition. We understand how busy you all are, and we appreciate you spending some time with us this morning to hear directly from our author, Sari Edelstein, about the new edition of her book. I am Rhonda Dearborn. I'm the executive editor for nutrition here at JVL. We also have Andrea DeFranzo, who will be speaking later about some of our digital and other ancillaries, who is our senior marketing manager. We will be taking questions, as the operator just articulated, at the conclusion of the presentation. In the meantime, your lines are muted. Today's presentation is being recorded, and for those of you who have colleagues who are unavailable this morning to attend the live presentation, we will be forwarding you the link so that you in turn can share that link with some of your colleagues. Also, everyone who participates today will be able to get a desk copy or review copy of Life Cycle Nutrition, second edition. And what we'd like to do is maybe go on to the next slide and introduce our author. And again, we're so lucky to have Sari today to speak to you directly, her colleagues, with regard to the new edition of her book, what's new, her approach, and some of the best features and benefits. So why don't I now turn it on over to Sari?
Well, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I am Sari Edelstein, and I am the editor of this fine book that I feel very proud of because I've collected for you so many dietitians and nutrition experts throughout the country and the world, really, to provide this for you. I really sought after those working in the field so that you would have today's cutting-edge experience with the book. For my background, I've been a dietitian for 35 years. 30 of those years was in hospitals, and so I have done every position you can imagine, and half of that time I did pediatrics and the other half adult. So my idea for this book was to make it more evidence-based approach and let the literature, the current literature, speak in the book about what our new findings are, instead of perhaps repeat some of the things we've learned from the past, because we're really growing at a super rate. And so all of those things I've tried to place in the book so that the adopters can present this to their learners with a lot of confidence that if they go out in the real-life field of nutrition or healthcare, that they will be armed with all the updated information. So I'd like to move on to, I was going to tell you about the first 3 chapters. If I could get, there we are. Here's the first slide. I want to tell you about Chapter 1, Nutrition Requirements During Pregnancy. And the great thing about the second edition is that for those of you who bought the first edition, and thank you so much, we really did a faux pas and didn't put in the first edition this chapter. We really started it from birth to death. And we got such a wonderful response from our readership and said, you know what, we'd really like you to put in, prior to birth. And so we had Dr. Lisa Brown, who's an expert in obstetrical nutrition and pregnancy and lactation, and we asked her to write the chapter. And many of you got the book with an extra chapter strapped onto it. Well, we're happy to tell you that now we have the chapter in the book. And, of course, it's been updated as well. Dr. Brown gives us the cutting edge on fetal development and the critical nutritional components that occur during pregnancy. And that really talks about lifestyle when a woman is pregnant and prior to pregnancy, and with the new expanding field on epigenetics. And we feel that epigenetics, along with genetics, is one of the burgeoning fields that we must put in to any kind of life cycle book. And it's very important for those in the nutrition field to understand the impact of nutrition, both on the expectant mother and then afterwards when the child is born, if they have some inborn errors of metabolism based on nutritional components, that they can be treated, and most times by registered dietitians and the rest of the medical community all in concert together. We've expanded our lactation section, which is also becoming very important as we look at the benefits of breastfeeding and the impact, even more than we've ever dreamed. We've gone from bottle feeding to breastfeeding to really looking at what kind of setup for life nutrition breastfeeding does provide. So we're very happy to add those two sections into this. And I also want to remark upon that we've, in each chapter, had an opportunity to add more case studies. And this we really got from the readership as well, that they really want more case studies. So I'd like to read to you just some of the titles of the case studies of the few chapters I'm going to go over. And in Chapter 1, we have Nutrition Prior to Pregnancy. That's a case study. Case study number 2, Gestational Diabetes. Case study 3, Weight Change During Pregnancy. And case study 4, Vegetarian Pregnancy. So as you can see, this will be an exciting chapter for your students. We've also done what a lot of textbooks don't have, which has always kind of irked me, as I'm a user of all these textbooks, being a college professor as well, and that is we give you all these answers in the instructor material. So there will be an explanation of what you would want the student to recognize or be mindful of in the answers to these case studies. So I think that will help those instructors who haven't been pediatric dietitians and are also learning themselves and really need that resource available to them. So I find that to be an important thing that we're adamant in providing. The second chapter I would like to go over is Chapter 5 that you see on your screen. And that's really special topics in prenatal and infant nutrition, genetics and inborn errors of metabolism, and failure to thrive. When you look at the authors that I have right under this author page, you don't know this, but these are the dietitians of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And they have written most of the pediatric chapters in the pediatric half of the book. And I did that because these are the nutrition experts of today. These are the dietitians working with the physicians and the nurses in a team approach every day with these cutting-edge cases that we have evidence-based learning about how to treat them. And so as you can see, we've added some of the newer metabolism problems that will need to be treated by special diet. And who else to get them from than those dietitians right at the cutting edge? And again, we walk the instructor and the learner through each of these as not to be a practitioner. You're not ready to be a practitioner when you get out, but that you're being introduced to these inborn errors of metabolism so that you know they exist and you know what pediatric nutrition also encompasses besides well nutrition and regular infant nutrition and picky eaters and all the problems we still provide to you in the second edition. But we wanted that to be available because now in the industry, we We do expect nutrition professionals to handle these problems, so we want all of our graduates to have heard of them and to understand the delicacy of what needs to be done for the treatment. So it's more of a getting your feet wet type of chapter, because in one chapter we can't tell you all of these things, but it certainly goes far and above where a life cycle book that perhaps I went through school with that wouldn't really mention these type of things, so we did want to bring that to you. I'd like to read a couple of the case study titles again so you can see what we bring to life with answers for you. And one is Inborn Errors of Metabolism, and the other is Failure to Thrive. And failure to thrive, we know that that's an age-old problem, but we have more reasons of why they may be occurring, and more medical indices that the team has to look for to recognize why infants are failing to grow. So we do attack that, and we try to provide a pretty well-rounded introduction to this very specialized topic, we realize. All right, the next chapter I would like to bring to you is Chapter 15, and it's Special Topics in Nutrition and Ethics, Feeding and Ethical Issues at the End of Life. Now, the reason we put this in the book, which may not be present in the yesterday's type of life cycle nutrition books, is because we are addressing hydration and feeding at the end of life. And dietitians, as well as other health professionals, need to know how nutrition and feeding, what part it plays and the issues that are involved. And as you can see on the list here of some of the new items we have on the right column is that we are bringing in the American Society of Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition 2010 ethics position paper, and we also have the new code of ethics that the Academy is using because we are recognizing the dietitian's part in this as they work with the rest of the medical team. I want for you for one moment to look at the authors, and I want to remark that David Todris has passed away, but he was the end-of-life physician at Massachusetts General Hospital, and he was the ethicist. And so we were lucky enough to have David and his wife, Judith Charlin, write this chapter in the first edition and really give us a macro view instead of just a nutritional point of view of what's involved at the end of life. And then we were so lucky to have Julie O'Sullivan Mallett take over and do the revised chapter for the second edition. And many of you may recognize her name. She is the expert in the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics on this topic. And she has a lot to do with writing the code, the new code of ethics for the Academy in providing hydration and feeding at the end of life. So again, we have provided for you, the very best and the cutting edge experts. I wanted to let you also know that Julie O'Sullivan Mallett has also provided a case study, and it's all about withdrawing and withholding feeding. Now, I realize I'm only presenting to you 3 chapters, and we have filled the rest of it with a lot of new considerations that have come out, but to go over every chapter would be too lengthy for all of you to hear, so I'm so inviting you to get your desk copy and please look through each chapter. We have also listed chapter by chapter in the beginning of the book, in the preface, all the new things that we have added. It's really not the whole list, it's just citing some of the new aspects. And we have the Healthy Guide 2020, we have the new USDA guidelines, everything you can imagine has been put in here because this book has been written by the dietitians themselves who are working in these fields. And myself, being a dietitian for 35 years and being in the field most of the time, I can tell you that I really appreciate their time, and they're giving us, the view of someone out in the field. Okay, so now I'd like to move to the next slide and go through some of the key pedagogical elements that we've provided that help students look at, what are we trying to convey to them. So we've kind of done that as an interest, and you'll see these evidence-based practice sidebars. And what we do is we'll pick out a topic, and in this case you see nitrates, because that has always been of particular interest to dietitians. And we'll give you the updated peer-reviewed clinical trial or study that has shown us, where are we with that topic at this point. Because as you know, in dietetics and nutrition, depending on what year it is, we may feel differently about a topic depending on what the current literature is, and we're evolving and changing and growing at all times. So we've tried to focus in on some of these areas where we can in the book. And also, the secondary gain from doing something like this is you're teaching students to use evidence-based resources for their research papers and for their practice guidelines in the future. It's something you have to tell them and educate, or they really may use the internet at large. Many of you are instructors and you realize that you have to tell students where to get reputable information. And so we really try to do that by using this element. Okay, the next one would be the cultural diversity sidebar. And we really are trying to focus in on the cultural diversity of nutritional habits, that every culture has different traditions, habits, propensities, and so we do want the dietitian and other medical specialties to realize that there will be different points of view from patients and clients. And so we do try to help the student realize that and educate them so that when they're put in situations of helping clients, they will have more information, from their education that they can use, and also hopefully look up more about it so that they can understand. I mean, poverty is a big thing in this world. It hits different cultures, more one than the other, and so we really want to address this in a realistic way with each culture and be aware of the levels of poverty, the levels of tradition with nutrition that exist, religious differences, and food uses. So we do try to do that. Again, as you can see in this little box, we even have an evidence-based reference in it to again say, this is not hearsay, this is something that we have found, and we're presenting it to you so that you can learn from it as well. Okay, we'll take the next one. I have found that there are teachable moments that we all have, and I've tried to express that in something called critical thinking, and that we've tried to capture, in essence, what we're trying to say in the book, or through maybe a page or many paragraphs, and try to say, what is the point? What do we really want you to get from this? And so we sort of synthesize or process it for the student, or we begin to, so that they can evaluate, examine, and reason, reflect, and just as it says here, and decide for themselves about what they've just read. So I really think that that's an important challenge for all of the instructors, because as I stand in front of a classroom, as many as you do, we don't want someone to be memorized something from a book. We want them to be able to understand it, do some thinking about it, learn about it, and then carry it with them as they graduate into the real world and practice, so they're able to reflect back on some of these things they learned. And we're hoping to do that with critical thinking, get the student to then synthesize with a little help, and what do we mean by that? What is the bottom line? And I think we tried to capture that, you know, as simply as we could, to put it in simple language, in case you know, it's a little too much, the chapters. And so providing a little summary here and there, I have found to be very helpful as both a reader, you know, and an instructor. So we have tried to provide that for everyone. Okay, I think there's another one. Learning points, again, are just calling out some of the prominent, I guess, points of the chapter that we want to reiterate to the student, so that it's sort of a, this is what we're talking about, and they can go through and say, oh, okay, you know, I want to narrow this down to what is the learning point here, what is the main topic that we're looking at. So we kind of just point those out for them so that it's an easy read to go through if you look at the learning point and then you can look at the material. It's just another way of pointing out what's important in the pages to come. Okay, and then let's see if we have another one. Case studies, as I mentioned, I think this is a great addition that the readers, again, have suggested. And you can see we have a case study by the example. You see the questions. We're actually asking the questions for the students to answer. And those are the very answers we give in the instructor's manual for you to use, so that you're not looking at this and saying, well, you know, I'm not a pediatric dietitian. I don't know how to improve their nutritional status, as you see number 3. This will also help you, written by the very dietitians at the Children's Philadelphia. So this can be I have found this to be a great idea to give as an assignment before the reading, before the lecture for the class, so the students have had to go through the material and given this some thought. It can be for a grade, not a grade. It's just a wonderful conversation piece that brings the chapter to life in a real life way. So we take the material and then we put it into a real life scenario. And you know what's very funny about these case studies is that a lot of these are real life experiences that have happened to these dietitians. As you can see, this is written by Rachel Lesson, and I would bet that, you know, she has gone through this and found it an intriguing question, and so she's given her what she went through and then how she went through helping this client. So it becomes very, very interesting. I know I have a case study in the book, and I did the same thing. I had a perplexing case that I thought was interesting, and then I proposed questions, and then I let the instructor know how I solved the problem, and it kind of gives the book life as to what kind of problems students will have in the future as they become practitioners. So hopefully they will keep the book as well, so that they will be looking back. Okay, and I think we have another one. This is also, I found great in the classroom. I actually assign students the different issues, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They have to discuss it with the class and come up with a starter conversation so that we have you know, going back and forth, getting them involved in the conversation. So these are all great tips to get the class involved, to get them thinking, and someone else besides you to present the material if you would like. And I find that once you give them that assignment, you know, it really does bring them to life, and they have to look up, guess what, evidence-based resources to come up with their answers. So they're learning how to do that right from the get-go. So I find this to be a great follow-up to what we're trying to do with the whole book, sort of using a thread and weaving through all of these things and making a complete product by the end of how they learn how to deal with nutritional problems. Okay, let me see what else we have. The special sections. Again, these, I designed these so that I know instructors have time issues, and we have different levels that people are using the books for. So the special sections can be addressed if the instructor has time to go over them, or if there's a special interest in them by the instructor and they want to use them, if there's enough time to do them, and then you have time to do that or not. You can choose to do that as an instructor, or it can be just extra reading for the students. I like to include them in the class, but I may have a luxury of 28 classroom meetings where someone else might be doing only meet 15 times. And so you may or may not want to use this, and so that's why we put it in special sections, so that you weren't only doing partial chapter instruction and getting the class involved, but you could expand or not expand depending on the time you had and the level that you had. We certainly would want to use the special sections in graduate courses, but you may choose to or not depending on if you're using it in the bachelor's level. It just depends on your specialty, your level, and the time that you have. So we wanted to make that optional, yet still cutting edge and very interesting. So it could even be extra credit for some students if you would like. So that's kind of my thinking on providing that, because the book really is full of a lot of information. And let me see, do we have another one? Okay, I believe that we have someone from Jones and Bartlett Learning that will now be describing this, but I will wait for questions to the end.
Thanks, Sari. This is Andrea DeFranzo. So now I'd like to take a moment to talk about the excellent teaching and learning package that accompanies the second edition. For students, you'll see here we have the Navigate Student Companion site that provides a number of study aids and learning tools to help reinforce key concepts in your course. So it includes a supplemental chapter on interpreting evidence-based research, which is very helpful. It can be used if time allows, or students can tackle that on their own. We also have chapter practice quizzes, which students really enjoy. They can prepare for their upcoming quizzes and tests that way. We have web links to additional relevant information that students find handy, and interactive glossary and interactive flashcards to help reinforce key terms. There are also crossword puzzles, as well as a BMI calculator, a chemistry review, animations, and a lot more. It's really a robust and useful student site. For the instructor, we have an extensive test bank that features more than 400 questions, and they're in multiple choice, true, false, and essay formats. The instructor's manual, which was talked about earlier, includes answers and explanations to the related case studies that you find in each chapter. And then the PowerPoint presentations are really helpful. They're organized by chapter and really help you model your lecture time. It saves a lot of time for instructors. Lastly, I wanted to point out that we have, for students who prefer anytime, anywhere ebook access, we have the Life Cycle Nutrition Second Edition available on CourseSmart and can be accessed at www.coursesmart.com. And some students prefer the ebook. It is available from their laptop, from their tablet to their phone, so it really is another added convenience for students. So now I think we'll turn this over for the question and answer portion of our presentation. So if anyone has any questions, please let us know.
At this time, if you would like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. You will hear a tone acknowledging your request and a prompt to record your name. If you would like to withdraw your question, please press star, then the number 2. We will pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Once again, to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1. And at this time, there are no audio questions.
Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And if you do have any additional questions after today's presentation, please feel free to contact us or your representatives at 1-800-832-0034 or by email at info@jblearning.com. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your participation. This concludes today's conference. You may now disconnect.